Bill, wake up! Wake up! You overslept again, and it's time to tape. We're getting through this together. You've overslept again, and it's time to film the show. We're getting through this together.
That was yesterday. We taped the show already, right? Was that a dream? I thought we taped the show already. Oh well, I guess we better do this again. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Bill in India. And as you can tell, I sleep with my glasses on and a lav mic just in case we're going to tape right out of bed. And I guess we're taping. So hey, on this week's edition of Getting Through This Together, we're talking about sleep and how it affects your health and your mental health. So let's get this started. We're getting through this together. All right, welcome to the show, everybody, and welcome to my bedroom, I guess. This is where we're doing the show today because it's a show about sleep. I don't know if you've thought about it. Maybe you have lately. Sleep doesn't come as easily as it used to for some of us these days. We are busy, we're worn out. We've got this new normal everybody's talking about, maybe working from home, maybe homeschooling. Whatever your new routine is, it's not like the old and it's filled with worries from day to night. A lot of indoor time, a lot of being confused about what day of the week it is. I was confused yesterday about what month it was. And into all of that, we keep it together during the day the best we can. But a lot of us, when it comes time to lay our heads down right here, all of those anxieties and worries come bubbling up. And I know I've had a sleepless night or two since this whole thing started, and maybe you have too. Well, today we want to talk about sleep as we get through this together. And you'll remember that in a lot of these episodes, we've been saying that what you do to improve one part of your life will bleed over and spill over to improve other parts of your life, including your mental health. And one of the things that I want you to know today is that sleep is important to physical and mental health. And, very interestingly, if you look at the brain scans of someone who is sleep deprived, it actually looks a lot like the brain scans of someone who has an anxiety disorder. The two kind of correlate, and one can lead to the other, and the other can lead to the other. And it's what scientists call bidirectional comorbidity. So use that at your next dinner party and impress some folks. Bidirectional comorbidity, they just feed off of each other. And if you're like me, it's easy to lose sleep over some of the things that are going on in our world today. And yet it's really important for our bodies for a number of different reasons that we do get the sleep that we need. If nothing else, it's a way that your brain physically replenishes itself and the neurotransmitters and the brain structures. And mentally and emotionally, it's the way that we process and work through difficult things in life. To learn more about this, I'm really excited to have back as our special guest today, Dr. Linda Delo, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, who's going to shed some light on why sleep is so important.
Yeah, I always stress, the mind, body, spirit, and the soul, and the interrelationship of all of these things. And sleep is one of those major factors. We talk about stress reduction, which you've done an awesome job talking about already, exercise, healthy diet, and adequate rest. So rest is our body's downtime, which is when we can rebuild ourselves and recoup. We don't get enough sleep. We don't handle, our immune system isn't as good. We're hungry for bad foods. We don't function well. We have to have that downtime for the body to restore its functions and have that rest that we need.
Yeah, the studies are kind of alarming that something as simple as sleeping well or not sleeping well can lead to increased risk of stroke, asthma attacks, seizures, weakened immune system. And of course, what's more important right now, right, than having your immune system functioning as best as it can? And interestingly enough, there's this cycle that can happen where an event like we're in the middle of, this pandemic, can cause you to be stressed out and full of anxiety, which impacts your ability to sleep well, which then cycles back in and around. So I read this quote today. I forget where this was, the sleepfoundation.org. They say at some point it's hard to tell whether you're having trouble sleeping because you're anxious or you're anxious because you can't sleep. The answer may be both. It's a two-way street. Stress and anxiety can cause sleeping problems or worsen existing ones, but lack of sleep can also cause an anxiety disorder. So maybe talk a little bit, especially with regard to mental health and sleep.
Yeah, the anxiety and the sleep thing is true. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. One aggravates the other, and it's hard to say. But without enough sleep, you can be more anxious, and if you don't get if you're anxious, you may not sleep. So again, getting into that exercise thing we talked about, and working on stress reduction activities. And I know you're going to cover some other things as far as what you do before bed to try to make sure you get sleep, meditating, prayer, whatever those things may be to help you to calm down, to get that rest.
Yeah, you know, the beautiful thing about this series of videos is the advice from week to week sounds very similar. The things you do to take care of one thing also help take care of other things. And so if you follow the advice we've already been giving, you're probably already on your way to sleeping better. Now, how would someone even know that they are sleep deprived?
The amount of sleep people need may vary from person to person. Some people, not a lot, but some people get along fine on maybe 5 or 6 hours sleep, and other people need closer to 9 or 10 hours of sleep. So the best way to really determine whether you're getting adequate sleep is by how you feel. How do you feel when you wake up? How do you feel during the day?
Yeah, and maybe as we close and turn practical, as you mentioned on the rest of the show, we're going to kind of, in a fun way, show what it looks like to prepare for sleep well. So we've got a ton of very practical tips coming up. But you know, for some people, they're going to continue to struggle and they're going to have trouble staying asleep or getting back to sleep or sleeping at all. And it's impairing their lives, their ability to work well and interrelate well. At that point, maybe they should consider seeing a doctor, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to try and encourage natural ways without medications, but there are some people that we do need to give medications to, and we have to rule out underlying causes, certain other medications or things of this nature that could be affecting their sleep patterns as well.
And again, like we said in the previous interview, that's why it's important to have a relationship with a doctor that you trust and you collaborate together to manage your health proactively. And also, I think, like we said in the previous interview, you can find doctors who just want to throw a pill at everything. And so the pills compound because the side effects of one leads to another pill, but it has side effects that leads to another pill. So I came to you recently with a sleep issue. And instead of throwing a pill at it right away, we started examining the other medicines that I was on. And what you know, one of them had insomnia as a side effect. And eliminating or substituting something else cleared it up like that. And so you never know what may be contributing toward a poor night's sleep. And sometimes it helps to just get a professional involved. And it's important enough to take the time to do that.
It really does affect everything, and sleep is crucial. And we've got to make sure that we take the time to do what we have to do to be preventive and proactive in taking good care of our health.
All right, I want to thank Linda Delo again for taking time out of her busy schedule to, again, bring her medical expertise to bear on this week's topic. And you know, there's a lot to think about with regard to sleep, but I'm going to boil it down for you into just a ton of practical tips that you can apply tonight to get a better sleep tonight, maybe the best sleep you've ever had. But before we do that, I want to do a new segment we're going to call the mailroom. So let's see what we've got in our inbox this week. I got this picture from Jenny. It's a joy jar, and she made this in response to our episode about gratitude. So now every day Jenny's taking some time to write down what she's thankful for and then dropping it in her joy jar. So thanks for that. Secondly, I just want to read something that was posted to Facebook. Just a poignant reminder of why last week's episode was so important. Last week we talked about when self-help doesn't help, and that sometimes we all need to reach out for help from other people, and it could even be a matter of life and death. So She wrote, you know, anxiety comes in different forms and affects different people in different ways. And a lot of people aren't open to talking about it because they fear others might see it as a weakness. But if we could all get over that fear, I know, easier said than done. I've lost someone I really cared about to suicide, and I've almost lost quite a few people I dearly loved to suicide. Almost is too close, and whether it's from anxiety, PTSD, or depression, it takes over, and it's hard to see anything else in that moment. And then she thanks me for sharing my story, and so that I say that's exactly why God has had me live this story, so I can share it. And that's the same with everybody. Your story is worth sharing, and our stories, I'm sure, are a lot alike. That life is full of peaks and valleys, of light and darkness. And we all go through those seasons of darkness. And I just want to remind everybody a second time that those are just seasons, and there are light seasons as well. In fact, there is light at the end of the darkness. And if you're in a dark place, remember to reach out for help. That's what this shirt is about, by the way. It says, we need you here, and we do need you here. So reach out to get the help if you need it. You know, I just saw an interesting headline that was kind of startling. It said, 70, 80,000 people could die of suicide by the time this whole crisis is over. That's as many people as have died right now of the virus itself. And that's why we're doing this series, because it's important to think about and care for our mental health and take care of that aspect of our being as well. Here's another headline for you that I saw. It says, psychiatrists fear tsunami of mental illness after lockdown. Well, we all have to take care of ourselves, and that involves us physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually as well. And over the course of all these episodes, we're going to try to cover all those bases. And today, for our last segment, we're going to talk about a really easy thing you can do to feel better tomorrow, and that's sleep well tonight. And if you want to grab a pen and paper, I've got some super practical tips for you for how to sleep better tonight. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, time for tip number one. We're out here on these streets, and I know what you're thinking. But what are you doing on the street? We're talking about sleep, right? Well, here's tip number one. It is important to get daylight during the day. That's how your body's circadian rhythm is set. So make sure you're out in the daylight as much as you can, or open those windows. Tip number two is also out here, and that is to get as much exercise as you can during the day. So I'm out here running. Here's my neighbors. Juan, what did you do for exercise today?
Just played tennis, man. I'm dead tired.
All right.
It's hot out here.
And Maggie, you look like you're gardening.
I rode a few miles of biking first and now gardening.
Oh man, awesome. So the more you can do to stay active during the day, the easier it is to not be left over with all that excess energy at night. For tip number three, let's head inside. All right, we're back inside for tip number three, and as you can see, I'm something of a coffee aficionado, whether it's the standard drip, a Keurig, a pour over, an AeroPress, cold brew, or my latest contraption, this beautiful mocha pot. We'll let that go for a while. But here's the deal. If you want to sleep well at night, you have to stop with the caffeine at least 6 hours before you go to bed. 6 to 8 hours. Everybody's body and metabolism is different, so I do my very best to try to stop drinking caffeine at 2 p.m. Time for tip four. Jessica, what are you up to?
Taking a little cat nap.
Okay, but no naps after 3 p.m. You're not going to sleep at all tonight. Get up. Time for a little snack, huh?
Tip number 5. No food 2 hours before bed.
All right, time to head toward the bedroom, and that brings us to tip number 6. Keep the same schedule every day. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, even if it's on the weekend. Your body will thank you. But tip number 7, don't try to go to bed before you're sleepy. That's a recipe for disaster. So don't go to bed unless you're sleepy. All right, tip number 8's down this hallway. Let's go. Tip number 8, make your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Let's get that temperature down. All right, for tip number 9, let's take a quick tour of my nightstand. So tip number 9 is, hey, don't look at your clock all night. So in fact, turn that thing around so you can't see it. Tip 10, a little bit of white noise goes a long way. This electro-fan white noise generator is just what the doctor ordered. And then here we have aromatherapy, tip number 11. A little bit of lavender or lang lang goes a long way. Now, how about this? Why do we have a pad of paper and a pencil on the nightstand? Well, that's tip number 12. And that's simply this. If you have a worry or a to-do list item come to mind, well, you don't have to leave it in your head. You can write it down, get it on paper, and then you can rest easy. Number 13 is the trusty weighted blanket. These blankets are filled with little pellets that when they land on you, they make you feel so secure and safe. Jess, you want to demonstrate? Here you go, catch. All right, time for tip 14. If you're like me at the end of a busy day, your brain will just not acknowledge it's the end of the day and shut off. You need a little help. Maybe you even need to be bored to sleep. So there's a great podcast called Sleep With Me. This guy who just knows he has a kind of boring voice will read you stupid stories that just bore you to sleep. Tip number 15 is another app, actually a lot of different apps. It's a technology called Binaural Beats. These apps create different tones in your ears, so you have to use headphones. One tone in your left ear, one tone in your right ear, slightly different, and it will be perceived by your brain to have sort of a pulse. And as your brain brings these tones together and creates that pulse, your brain waves are entrained to deeper and deeper states of relaxation. If it sounds weird, it is a little weird, but I can tell you this, there's one that I don't know what the end of the track sounds like, because I've never made it to the end of the track. I am always asleep. Tip number 16 is yet another app, and it's a meditation app called Abide. These are Christian meditations. Here's one on Matthew and the tax collector. It'll ask you, how long do you want your meditation to last? Let's go 5 minutes.
Welcome to this Abide meditation. How is Jesus?
And it'll just guide you in thinking about the scripture and guiding your mind toward God and just how He's blessed you. It's a beautiful thing, meditation. All right, and closely related to meditation is prayer, tip number 17. Prayer is simply talking to God, and the Bible says that He invites us to cast our cares on Him because He cares for us. And Psalm 127 says He gives sleep to those He loves. And so what a beautiful way to end your day, kind of unloading all that's on your mind to God, knowing He cares for you and He's got the whole world in His hands. So the child song says, and so it's true. Tip 18 is to become mindful of your breathing. You might use any number of different rhythms. A popular one is box breathing. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. And you start repeating that. The whole point is just to become conscious of your breathing and to slow it down, which will have the effect of relaxing your whole body. Now, closely related is tip number 19, progressive relaxation. As you become aware of areas of tension in your body, just let them go. In fact, you can do it systematically from head to toe or toe to head to tense muscles, individual muscles, and then release them and notice and appreciate what that release feels like. And as you do that, your whole body will become relaxed. Tip number 20, yes, we're already up to number 20, is to get rid of this thing. For various reasons, blue light interferes with your body's ability to fall asleep. And so whether it's the TV or the phone, get rid of it, get it out of the room because of the blue light, but also because of just it gets your mind going, that whole social media thing of the anxiety it creates. We don't need that right before bed, so get rid of that. Okay, tip number 21, if you've tried all of this and you still can't get to sleep and you're just tossing and turning, don't stay in bed. Don't try to sleep for more than 15 or 20 minutes because you'll get so frustrated it'll be even worse. So get up and do something else, like read a book, read something boring, take a quick walk around, have a drink of water, and then have another go at it. And finally, tip number 22, if none of this works for you, it's important that you see your healthcare provider. There are a number of things that they can help with. Sometimes it's a medication, a side effect of a medication. Sometimes it helps if you take a certain medicine in the morning instead of night, or night instead of morning. And sometimes sleep disorders can be a sign of sleep apnea or problems with heart, lungs, or other bodily organs. So for all these reasons, it's really important to have a good relationship with your doctor and you check in if you're having sleep issues. Well, I think I'm starting to get sleepy after all this, so I'm going to go to bed right now, and I'm going to check in with you as soon as I wake up and tell you how it went. All right, good night, everybody.
Bill, wake up! Wake up! You overslept again, and it's time to tape. We're getting through this together. You've overslept again,
No.
and it's time to film the show. We're getting through this together.
That was yesterday. We taped the show already, right? Was that a dream? I thought we taped the show already.